Okay, welcome again to Wickerson Studios. I'll fly by the seat of my pants on this one. Keep in mind that you're going to Rhino. You can open Grasshopper by typing in Grasshopper. You have brought out your learning Rhino tutorial samples and you've plugged it into here on your settings toolbar and you're opening constraints. And there you go. As you open it, I'm going to zoom extends all, get everything ready, and see what this 6.6, the Smart Track, has to offer. It is going to want you to turn on your Smart Track. And in doing so, let's see what happens. I don't know if we can probably, it says make sure that your object snaps are turned on. It wants us to have near end point, mid, center, and intersection, and that's what we've got. We take out tangent, we take out quad, because I don't think those are relevant on planes and what we're dealing with. So we'll go on the top view, and there you go. The next page, it suggests, okay, start seeing what you can do. What do they do? I think they basically say trace this around by making a curve and making a polyline, I think. And jump on here, go to here, go to here, go to here, and here, and here. More or less do things like this and close that. And then go into your top view and see what happened. You'll see that I actually basically trace that all around. Now, what's happened there is I probably want to bring up layers 2. And you'll see that those layers are a little more interesting. So I'm going to turn off layers 1. And we're going to do the same in the top view. By zooming out and saying, okay, let's redo that polyline. Now keep in mind they're not all in the same tiers. They're not all on the same plane. So grab yourself a curve, and I'm just kind of making this up without going through the tutorial. I'm going to go around and trace this all the way around again, snapping to these points, and see what actually is happening. I guess let's go back and, I didn't mean to do that. Let's go here, here, here. Oh, I really messed that up. Let me get rid of that one and let's try it again. That's the one problem with polylines is if you don't get it exactly how you want it, you've got to start over. You can go back and step, but I've got so many snaps on it, it's really do-si-doing. I'm just going to go all the way over to here and hit close. And let's see what happened with that one. And there we go. You can see that that did not, it stayed planar to, which is pretty nice, the objects. So that's kind of an interesting little pattern that happened. You want to gain control over that and think, okay, well, what happens if I had my planar on or if I had project on and I did that again? Let's do that again by hitting curve, polyline, polylines, and go from here to here to here to here to here to here and back to here. And you'll see that that did a projection down onto the plane. So that's basically what's happening. Now I'm trying to think, like, what am I going to do? Let's do-si-do through the center and see what happens if we try another curve and do a polyline and start here but miss everything and just kind of jog around like this and see what happens. Like, where is that line going? And we'll go over here and you'll see that that was projected on there. I'm going to take projection off and try that again and see if there's any difference in what happens. So here, polyline, connect, start here, draw it out, draw it back here, over here, and you see the funkiness that's happening. This is just like, it's deciding wherever it wants to go, jostling up and down and getting reference, probably because of Smart Track. So you can see how things do get a little too confusing when you've got a few too many object snaps on. What was the last section as they go through instruction to construction planes? That's probably the most exciting thing. And they're going to use construction planes after, but let's play a little bit around with that. So what do they suggest? Go into, in the following exercise, you will practice the object snaps. You will transform the surfaces. The seaplanes can be restored after, and you'll be using 3-point. Turn ortho off. Okay, it's not on. Zoom to the green. Maybe I should just go back into this and grab my curves and select all my curves. Curve, edit, select objects, select curves. And let's delete all those and get back to what I had. I think what they're doing is they're setting seaplanes at different points. Just gonna have to hit pause and figure out what's going on. Went in and I rotated using the gumball all of these planes so they'd be in a different position. I think I'll zoom extends all, and you can see that that's pretty interesting. And what I'm going to end up doing, I think, is setting Seaplane Origin. And there is a tool here that I really like, the seaplanes. And you can see this one says set, what does it say with the big set Seaplane Origin. So I could set that there. And there you go, you've moved everything to that, which is kind of nice. And then you go in here and seaplane elevation. I could grab here. Let me click that again, set it up there, and I brought the elevation up to the top of that, but it didn't move it over. It didn't set the origin. If I wanted to set the origin now, I'd have to move it over there, and then you can see it's made. I could redo that and set my origin to here on that angle, which is fine. So I would really get into this, set seaplane to object. So select the seaplane object, and there you go. It takes it right into the center. Really nice to kind of play around with these things, to think of fabricating in parts and pieces, and you can really lose yourself in this because you've oriented and gotten all mixed up to where you are. I think there's a quick way to bring it back. The green surface center radius name. Naming kind of return to the seaplane you have, that's always a little tricky. So I'm going to go set perpendicular to the curve. I don't want to do that. Rotate seaplane. That's kind of fun. Just grab that and set it to here, and you can start to roll that around on a different angle and move that. So you can really start to lose your objects, and it is a good thing to practice, and probably good to practice in all four viewports. You can see what I ended up happening here. Layport layout, I could always return to something. And that's always nice to know, to go back to your viewport layout and return to the 4 defaults. And that's when you really start to get lost, and I usually find myself doing that. So go back into your seaplanes, really play through here, seaplane vertical, and what happens is you'll wrap your head around reference points, and it will help with scripting in Grasshopper as you get later, and you start to, say, rotate to centers, and especially when you're dealing with not single objects, you're dealing with lists, and then when you deal with trees of data, which will be list, sub-list, and then everything gets complicated really quick. So set seaplane by X, set seaplane by Z, and I thought there'd be a Y in here, but I guess not. Undo seaplane change, that's always nice to know, and then forward redo it. So that's something that in case you do something you really don't want, you don't want to go back to layout and then going all the way back to resetting that. That would be handy, and you'll become more and more accustomed to this. The other thing is you could go into view, and I think it's seaplanes, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's see, if I think about seaplanes, where are they hidden? Tools, seaplanes. I really don't know up in this area. It is 3-point seaplanes. I would think it would be under edit, but do I see it, or am I just moving too quickly on myself? Anyway, you find out how you want to. Oh, it's probably view. View seaplanes. There they are, set seaplanes, and then you get that full range of everything that I was playing with in these icons. And at times I've taken this seaplane and I've actually brought it right down here because I use it so often right here. So I keep it down here and off this top toolbar, and I can sometimes customize to that. So that's a little trick of something you can do. So let's play around a little bit and see what we can do with these planes. Even though I've rotated them and changed them all up, let's see what we can do in Grasshopper, considering them exactly that. Now, there's ways to import these. We can import them default, that I would say in Grasshopper is to default set things to geometry. So you can grab that one, and you can just set that in there. Set one geometry, and it's in. And we can get rid of that on visibility, and you have your ghosted plane that you can start to play with. The other thing you might want to bring it in as is a surface. And you can also bring it in as a BREP, which is a boundary representation. And sometimes boundary representations are easy to script and code and use. And I've noticed Jose Luis Garcia talks about using BREPs instead of surfaces in his C# plugins. So maybe prioritize that over top of the surfaces if you want to use that as a boundary representation. And then the other thing to bring these in at might be interesting. And I don't know if they'll jump in as that, but I am curious. Can I import one of these monsters as a plane? No, but I can reference that plane to here, and if I can get an object snap on, I can reference that plane and pull a plane out on that surface. So that's really nice to play with. And then I would say just play around. We'll kind of get rid of that one. We'll only use these three. So we have this geometry, we have this geometry, and we have this plane. And we're not going to be using this one, so I'm just going to take it off. And now what can we do to those through transformations? Well, the geometry is very nice, and I'm just going to play around a little bit here with Euclidean. I've got a rotate, which is nice. I've got a Euclidean rotate 3D, which has a few different points of what I might want it to do with it. And what else do I have? Rotate direction, which is interesting. But also I have over here in surfaces, planes, I think I have a rotate plane, which is always interesting to think about. So if I had a plane and I just want to take that through an angle, I'm pretty sure the angle I'm going to default to pi because I like dealing in radians. I'm just going to put it through a range in the math tools. I'm getting a little out of order, but like I said, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants with this. Set sequence will give me a range, and I have a bunch of steps that I can step that one through, which is pretty nice. There's 10. And the domain that I want to make to that can start with 10, and I might want to bring down the count. I like my integer sliders. There's 2 planes now, and there's more, and you see a nice little pattern of planes happening. I'm going to have my default go from 2, 0 to 2, which you type 0, dot, dot, 2, and double that slider, and I can start at 0, and I can go to, in a range and domain, start at 0, and then rotate it through. And actually, I probably want to go in and edit, which I haven't shown before, into a number slider with decimals, so I can actually get in there and really have fun with those 4 planes as to how I roll them and how I start and stop them. And there's a lot there in minimal. So you're starting to get into some pretty cool things. Now, that one's not as exciting as a plane rotation as possibly taking this surface and using that and using this angle to come through, and then use this. The plane will be a little boring if I put it in there. Let's see what happens as a geometry on that. Am I generating geometry? 3 untrimmed surfaces, and what's happening with that as I'm rotating? There they are. I'm out of here. So I've actually, with the 2, I've made these 2 planes that can actually start there and go the full rotation all the way over to there. So that's pretty wicked to start thinking about how you can control. And if we bring this count up, you can see, wow, I'm really having a good play on starting that. I could start it at 1. And I can have a nice play on rotation all the way through to there. So you're starting to build, and to really appreciate this, you want to go back into Zoom Extends All and have fun with Zoom Extends All and see what's actually happening. Just because you're dealing with a domain and range of these surfaces. So pretty exciting. And if I take a double surface and roll this one in with a shift and put in another geometry, I just didn't actually make my brep. I'm not sure why I didn't set the brep there. Now I've got this one rotating and the other one rotating, and you can see that I have pretty good power over that one, like a deck of cards, fanning open a deck of cards. So that one's kind of fun to think about as well. And I think it overrode this one. Interesting that it did that. So what I'm going to do is just put this one in. Actually, it was there. It was just a little bigger. Shift and geometry in. And I think we're having fun with both. No, it's overridden and just doing the one. What happens if I take that data and I flatten it? Or actually, if I take that data and graft it, I should be able to see both patterns. Now you start to see the power of dealing in Grasshopper, that I have these 2 surfaces, 2 sets of 11 that are coming between, and I could definitely do something fancy pants and grab my centers of my geometries like that. They're in 2 groups as centroids, 12 and 12, and now using this little set tool that I always come back to, and I'm probably a little too dependent on it. Let's take that list and let's see what we have. We have 2 in one and 5 in the other. We've split this list. I'm interested if I flatten this data, what ends up happening. I end up getting 11 and 11, and I'm able to just go back to that wonderful visualization tools, which actually builds some of the simplest geometry, and that's A to B. And I think you're going to see I get those points very interestingly stitched through those 2. And I'm going to fan that out and see what happens to this geometry as I play with the numbers. Things get complicated pretty fast, but a very nice system of a wire model with paper to actually build something kind of pretty fantastic. And I can always take this and edit to rational numbers as well, so I have a little more finesse and control over what I want that to do and become something. And I think you're actually starting to create some very simple geometries. What happens when I take that and put it to flatten? I'm sure it's going to move into separating the data between two at a time. And if you still want to see a little more visualization than that, go into your pipe and have fun with this. And I think you'll see the radius jumping up. And I'm just going to type in 2, which gives me an integer slider 0 to 10, and I can jazz that up and have a nice little end. And I'm just going to set this to round cap so you see that we've built a pretty nice little model that's done something different. And there's a little number count here that's having trouble, and that will be because I was dealing with a range that was out of step. So I'm just going to go in here and use my expression and type x minus 1, which is usually the case with almost everything. And now you can see how it staggers in steps, and we don't have that double that messed up geometry that was happening. And I've got this kind of nice little rosebud. Once again, when you're done playing like this and you're hyper excited, like Michael Wickerson at Wickerson Studios, you start to feel for your viewers and saying, you know, I'm not one to write a lot of notes. I'm not a great Python scripter and C# scripter. I'm not very friendly to the people that might want to take a look at what I'm working on. I usually get excited. I didn't even use these nodes, so let's get rid of them. I do have a geometry here. I had a second breadth there. I had this one I wasn't using, and I have my third plane there. And with that, I've managed to do a little do-si-do with my pi and my range. And what I do like to do is take all of this data, bring it back into my sliders that can actually have an effect on things. And I like to grab my geometries and bring them back as well. So what I'll do is I'll just tuck this back here. I'll take all of these, I'll space them and stagger them. Actually, I'll put them all to the right. And we've got a nice little script. And what I'd like to have is everybody working in about a dozen scripts to make some very interesting geometries. And now you can jump into here, have fun from your original Rhino file. You've moved it around. You have parametric control over the beginning and ends of these curves. You've built yourself a very interesting model that I think will get you through the Grasshopper series of my course. I've gone all the way to 2, and it's actually ended up touching. I don't really like that. I like it a little separate, and I like it a little away from the beginning. More of a necklace, possibly. And another thing to do is to take this to render and bake. But what I'm going to do instead of doing that is just leave it in shaded, put this one in technical, put this one over in pen, put this one over in artistic, and say that's a pretty good model to start with. And then I do a zooms extends all there on my script. And that's a little bit of a rambling and rant, but that's what I love to do. And if you consider this as a file of smart track taken from a demo in learning Rhino, you're going to be like on steroids when you learn from Michael Wickerson when it ties to this. All right, thanks for watching.